Hey folks, I'm going to say this calmly and with a very deliberate smile because it's earned. MAGA isn't wobbling. MAGA is cracking. MAGA is an open revolt. MAGA is in a civil war. And this time, it's not just the base sniping at each other online or the usual carnival barkers on cable TV melting down for clicks. This is happening inside Donald Trump's own White House. And today's problem child? Kash Patel, now firmly on Trump's bad side as MAGA turns on one of its own. We're going to walk through this slow-motion pileup unfolding inside the administration because it's as revealing as it is self-inflicted. But before we dive into how Kash Patel managed to ignite a backlash so severe that even MAGA is recoiling, and how his latest scandal took a turn that's not just embarrassing but deadly, there's something important to note. Senator Chris Murphy laid out with precision the broader scandal orbiting Kash Patel and the damage it's already caused. That breakdown matters because it tells you exactly why the knives are out now and why this implosion was inevitable. Let's start there. House Democrats are investigating his use of the FBI private jet, now demanding he pay the government back after using it for what they call personal trips, which have been documented by FlightAware and others about the use of the plane, reportedly to see his girlfriend perform at a wrestling event and for hunting and golf trips. He does deny any wrongdoing, says he's restricted from commercial air travel. What do you see right now for where this is going and his leadership of the FBI? Well, we've probably never seen an FBI director care so little about his job as Kash Patel. He does seem to be spending most of his time gallivanting around the country, visiting his girlfriend, going on golf trips with his buddies, getting as close to the MAGA celebrity world as is humanly possible. And he's racking up all these huge bills on us, the taxpayers, right? These are ordinary average Americans, plumbers, teachers, pipe fitters who are paying the bills for his celebrity lifestyle. He could simply choose not to take these trips and to focus his time on his job protecting the American people. Or he could pay back the taxpayers. I mean, he's probably a pretty rich guy because he spent a lot of his life hawking cash merchandise, trying to profit off of his proximity to Donald Trump. He certainly has the cash to pay back the poor people, the middle-class families who are fronting his lavish lifestyle. Yeah, I think, part of the reason that Trump's approval ratings are continuing to sink is because they're watching, these really unserious people from Pete Heggs to Kash Patel, caring about a lot of other things than protecting us, saving their own hide, hanging out with their friends. And I think it disgusts a lot of Americans. Corruption at this point isn't a bug in Donald Trump's administration. It's a hiring requirement. If you want a seat in MAGA world, the rule is simple. Grab what you can while you can. And Kash Patel is doing exactly that. In fact, it's almost poetic. It's right there in the name. Now, this isn't hard for Donald Trump to defend because he suddenly developed a conscience about corruption. Please, Trump loves corruption. He just prefers Times as Times corruption. Quiet, self-serving, buried under layers of lies with the press either distracted or too incurious to follow up. What he cannot stand is corruption that creates exposure, corruption that generates questions, corruption that interferes with his ability to dodge accountability. That's the problem here, because now Trump isn't being asked about Times as Times misconduct. He's being asked about Kash Patel's and not some abstract ethics violation either. But the FBI's latest catastrophic failure under Patel's watch, another shooter still at large, another breakdown in basic law enforcement competence. Trump was forced to respond to that today. And before we get into how this is blowing up Kash Patel inside MAGA, how the knives are already out and the loyalty is evaporating, it's important to hear exactly what Trump said when confronted with it. So go ahead. On Brown University, Mr. President, do you know what the motive of the shooter was? That's moving along now, and we don't, and we're going to see what happens. Hopefully they're going to capture this animal. Hopefully they're going to capture, has Kash Patel told you why it's been so difficult for the FBI to identify who the shooter is? Well, it's always difficult, So far, we've done a very good job of doing it with Charlie with, you know, the various times this has happened, they've done it in pretty much record time. But you'd really have to ask the school a little bit more about that because, this was a school problem. They had their own guards, they had their own police, they had their own everything. But you'd have to ask that question really to the school, not to the FBI. We came in after the fact, and the FBI will do a good job, but they came in after the fact. So not really a defense of Kash Patel, I would point out there. Not really jumping in front of that bullet to say, no, I'm supportive of Kash. I'm backing Kash. He's A-okay with Donnie. He didn't say that. He didn't make it clear that he had his guys back. And why? It is because Donald Trump doesn't. Something that these people somehow have not learned is that Donald Trump, above all else, demands loyalty. He does not offer it to you, though. It is not a two-way street. You are always serving Donald Trump. And sometimes that means he will throw you out on the street and he doesn't really care, as long as it's serving his interest. And that is why Megyn Kelly, who is a close ally of Donald Trump, calling out Kash Patel today, showing the fracturing within MAGA so damaging for one of the dumbest members of Donald Trump's administration. Megyn Kelly tears into friend Keystone Kash over bungled probe. Megyn Kelly has joined in on the MAGA meltdown over her pal Kash Patel's latest manhunt blunder. The conservative firebrand, 55, couldn't hide her disappointment with the FBI director, 45, after he touted the detention of a person of interest in the mass shooting at Brown University, who was later released after authorities admitted they got the wrong guy. I really actually think we can get past person of interest turned out not to be the person. I think we can get past it, but it has to require utter blatant transparency and honesty. But I'm not going to lie. It's not good, Kelly said on a Monday episode of her podcast. It's not good that our friend Kash Patel tweeted out, they have a person of interest in custody and kind of patting themselves on the back when it wasn't the guy. None of this is good, she went on. Patel announced in a Twitter post, on Sunday that the FBI detained a person of interest after a shooter killed 2 students and injured 9 others at the Brown University campus in Providence, Rhode Island. This FBI will continue an all-out 24/7 campaign until justice is fully served, he wrote as he thanked agents for their teamwork. Mere hours later, however, Rhode Island Attorney General said that the person of interest would be released after authorities found that the evidence now points in a different direction. The Attorney General said Patel was fully aware of the 180 degrees twist that meant the shooter remains at large. The high-profile faux pas was another huge blow for Patel, who has been mockingly referred to as Keystone Kash after the bumbling police troop from the 1912 silent film, even by Kelly herself. I'm sorry, but Keystone cops come to mind when you look at what happened at Brown University over the past 36 hours, she said. Now, how much time has been lost in tracking the real killer because they were focused on this guy? This is why Donald Trump and Kash Patel's little freak out after the Charlie Kirk shooting never landed with me. And there are a lot of reasons for that. But the core one is simple. These guys have never taken their job seriously. Kash Patel doesn't take his job seriously because he's not a serious person. If he were, there would have been a real response here. This wouldn't be the latest in a long line of failures attached to his name. But he's an unqualified operator picked by an unqualified president who has no real interest in actually keeping the country safe. So when they start talking about crime, drugs, or a political violence, not as policy problems, but as a political weapon to go after the left, I don't buy it and nobody should. And now even MAGA isn't buying it either because the coalition is cracking and Trump is clearly losing patience with Kash Patel. He's tired of the embarrassments. Kash could absolutely be the first to go. There are already quiet conversations about shakeups at the FBI. Maybe Dan Bonino's on the way out. Kash could be too. There's a deputy director, not Bonino, waiting in the wings. This could be the end for Kash, and it's happening because MAGA is splintering. And honestly, it's something to hear Ari Melber say out loud. When things start changing in politics, they can change fast. We started the year hearing all about Donald Trump's comeback and how he had a mandate and Elon Musk could do what he wants and the courts wouldn't stop him. And for a minute there, it looked like that. But a lot has changed. The breaking point is always hard to find in real time. Historians have the job of combing through all the stuff we live through day by day and finding it. But if there is one, it may be the Epstein vote that showed the emperor has no clothes. Republicans weren't scared of Trump. And after they rejected him and his bid to hide Epstein last month, the files and everything else, they didn't pay a price. If anything, they are finding that disagreement with Trump in public may help them distance themselves from his sagging poll numbers. And now there are cracks in the wall going into 26. Trump reportedly losing ground, not just among independents and moderates, but among his MAGA base. He has an 8-point drop in the strong approval rating for MAGA Republicans. You may say, okay, you still got support there, but they're not necessarily strongly standing by everything. The Post reports that rank-and-file Republicans in Washington feel the heat on health care and just unpopular positions Trump has forced them to take on, slashing the safety net in healthcare funding and Obamacare subsidies. One House Republican office gets 300 calls a day just on the healthcare issue. Politico reporting that in deep red Montana, there's a revolt against the impact of all of those cuts from Musk, and folks saying, I didn't vote for this MAGA leaders, also warning that the base is checking out, which is a problem for someone like Trump who does best when he has his 40, 42, 38% checked in. A pollster who works with Republicans told Trump there's a disconnect between the Trump administration and what it's focused on and what the passionate base of supporters actually want to see. In this story, he recounts telling Trump, "You said fight, fight, fight. Nobody ever clarified what that means, and fight now. You're fighting MTG and not actually fighting for Americans." And that, of course, is just the base. Broadly, Trump is at a second-term low. The price problem, the inflation, the Epstein scandal, California Governor Newsom saying National Guard troops are now out of LA because of another Trump loss. It took a while, but a judge ordered them out. And while Trump was testing his power and may have gotten away with some flexing for some time, it also, like the Epstein case, has revealed the limits of his ability to put the military folks you see here in American streets indefinitely. And if that was a plan to mess with the public or the midterms or a future election, well, Trump is finding that losing in court is reminding everyone, including those troops, there are limits set by people other than the commander-in-chief. It is a grim picture for Republicans going into the midterms, and conservatives know it. Hard stops in American politics typically create massive political blowback, and 2026 looks like it's going to be pretty ugly for Republicans anyways. The political blowback is going to lead to Democrats in power in 2028. You can't gaslight people and tell them that their bills are affordable, and you can't tell them that the economy is an A++. You just can't do that. And I think it's insulting to people's intelligence. A lot of folks are talking in terms of messaging and PR, and that's a language Donald Trump understands. He just told the Journal, "We'll see what happens. We should win." But you know, statistically, it's very tough to win. And he's right. It's all fracturing. It's all coming apart. And yes, I'll admit it. That part is hard not to enjoy because this didn't happen by accident. This is what rot looks like when it finally hits daylight. And we're going to keep talking about it here because pretending it isn't happening is how these people survive. If you want to support that work, as always, hit the subscribe button, leave a like on the video. If you made it all the way to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. You earned it. Keep fighting, y'all. Don't let them shut you up. And until next time, I'll see.